Good afternoon, everyone. We will be offering simultaneous interpretation in English and Spanish during this meeting. If you wish to hear the speakers in Spanish, please click the interpretation button at the bottom right corner of your Zoom screen. You will see a globe icon that will appear right after these instructions. If you're joining us via the Zoom smartphone app, select your language by clicking More or the three dots in the bottom right corner of your Zoom screen. Select Language Interpretation, then choose English or Spanish, and click Done. If you wish to hear only the interpreter and not the original speaker, be sure to click Mute Original Audio. Buenas tardes, estaremos ofreciendo interpretación simultánea al español durante esta reunión. Si desea escuchar la interpretación al español, haga clic en el botón de interpretación en la parte inferior de la derecha de la pantalla Zoom. Verá un icono en forma de globo terráqueo que aparecerá justo después de estas instrucciones. Si nos acompaña a través de la aplicación Zoom para teléfonos inteligentes, seleccione su idioma haciendo clic en donde dice Más o en los tres puntos en la esquina inferior de la pantalla. Seleccione Interpretación del idioma, elija Español y haga clic en donde dice Listo. Si desea escuchar solo al intérprete y no a los presentadores, asegúrese de hacer clic en donde dice silenciar el audio original.
Happy one, two?
Or maybe 8.
Okay. Hello, welcome everybody. Thank you so much for being here. We are surprised we don't have anyone here in person tonight. So we're going to be doing this exclusively for those of you who have joined us on Zoom. Thank you so much for spending your time with us this evening. We'll start off with some introductions of who we are. My name is Sean Powell. I'm one of the literacy specialists here at school. I specialize in the primary grades of literacy, so the very foundational skills in literacy. My picture is in the middle here. I'm going to pass it off to
I'm Megan Krim. I'm the first grade English teacher with my partner here.
Andrea Tollison. I'm the German counterpart, and I will try to explain the German reading to you today.
So we have some objectives today that we'll share with you. The first one is we want to describe to you the components of learning to read, to give you a little bit of information about how complex this process is and what your children need to do to really become skilled readers. We're going to show you how to relate those components to our reading curriculum that we've introduced this year. Our reading curriculum is called UFLI, UFLI, which is for the University of Florida Literacy Institute. Our third objective is to learn about the codes. And when we talk about codes, we're really talking about the letter sound correspondences. So for English, there are certain sounds that go with the letters. For German, there are certain sounds that go with the letters. For Spanish, for any language, there's a code that goes with it. You have to know that code to learn how to read and write successfully. And then the last thing we'll touch on tonight is ways that you can support your child at home to help them be successful with reading and writing in English and German. So we'll start off with the components of learning to read. So back in, I think it was 2000, there was a panel called the National Reading Panel that collected a whole bunch of research on reading, and they determined that there are 5 pillars of reading. So that means that these are 5 really important parts of skills that children and anyone who's learning to read need to master in order to be skilled readers. So these pillars are 5 things we're going to talk with you about tonight. We're going to show you some examples of each of them tonight. The first one is called phonemic awareness, and we'll talk a little bit more about each of these as we go. For right now, I'm just going to tell you what they are. Phonemic awareness is the first one, followed by phonics, then fluency, then vocabulary, and then comprehension. So phonemic awareness, this is sort of the very beginning skill that children need to have before they even become readers, before they even match letters and sounds. So this is the, sorry, we've got airplanes going over. So you probably hear that. I don't know if you can or not. This is the ability to identify the different sounds that make up speech. So this isn't even looking at letters, it's just really hearing sounds. It's being able to identify, for example, if I said the word cat, and I would say, what's the first sound in cat? And you could tell me the sound is k. So it's being able to isolate those sounds. If I told you 3 sounds like k, at, you could tell me that word is cat. You could put those sounds together. So it's being able to hear those sounds, manipulate those sounds. That's the very beginning of being a reader. So we're going to show you, this is the very first part of a UFly lesson that we do in our classrooms, and it has to do with phonemic awareness. It captures that skill and it practices both blending and also segmenting. So blending is when you are hearing isolated sounds like at and putting them together to make a word. And segmenting is when you are hearing the whole word, like cat, and then you have to take the word apart into its individual sounds, like at. And Megan is going to give you, she's going to pretend like you're the students and she's going to teach you a little mini lesson.
So you should do these at home with your fingers, and then you guys are gonna respond.
I'm going to pretend to be a student so you can watch me too.
Play with me.
Okay, so we're first gonna I'm gonna say the sounds, you tell me the word. Ish,
Fish,
sh.
rush,
Last one. If.
ship,
Okay, awesome. This time I'm gonna give you the word and you're gonna give me the sounds and use your fingers for each sound. So shin, shock, and repeat the word after it. Shock. Let's do it again. Dash.
ash, dash,
And last one, brush.
rush.
Excellent.
It's okay to
The
make
Germans
mistakes.
have problems with that.
So we just warmed up our brain with some phonemic awareness.
That's how we start every UFly lesson for your student. It's really quick. And once they know the routine, we get through it really quickly. And then we transition in to really the bulk of the lesson, which has to do with another one of our pillars, which is called phonics. So phonics is really the code. It's matching the sounds to the letters so that they can sound out words and spell words. Making sure I don't forget anything. So it's dealing with sounds and syllables. And then now we're going to take you through some other components, some other parts of our UFly lesson so that you can see how we teach these to your children. What we're taking you through right now is one of our lessons. It's lesson number 45, I believe, of UFly. It is the lesson for the sound sh, which is spelled by the letters SH. So in fact, I think Mrs. Krim's classroom is getting ready to do this lesson, or maybe just recently did this lesson. So if your child is in Mrs. Krim's class, you may have already seen this in your homework.
Yeah.
But so every practice we're doing tonight for you is from this one lesson. So it'll all tie back to that sound.
Okay. So in this exercise, where we're still just warming up our brain, I'm not teaching you anything new, but we're just getting that practice, that repeated practice. You're gonna see a letter or 2 letters that make one sound, and you're gonna tell me the sound, and it's gonna go like this. CK spells, let's do it together.
CK spells,
FF spells, and we do use movements because if it's in the body, it's in the brain.
F spells, LL spells, ooh. L spells, ooh.
We'll do
SS spells, ZZ spells, D spells,
And we're gonna do this one because it makes 2 sounds. So S spells, and at the end of a word, it spells sometimes. So I think that's all we'll go through
Yeah, we
that
can-
exercise.
We're gonna skip through the rest of these. We can still go through quite a few of these. We review all the sounds that our students have already learned so that they get automatic with them. That's really one of the big goals of this program, is giving students the opportunity to practice, practice, practice. We want them to become fluent and automatic with seeing the letters, knowing the sounds, matching them up. Excuse me.
And so, kind of the reverse of what we just did this time, and I'm just gonna model this for us. This time, I'm gonna give you a sound, and then you're gonna tell me the letter. And we're gonna practice writing the letter. And this is where we get the great feedback for letter formation. And I'm gonna tell you, our first graders have beautiful handwriting because of this. So it would go something like this. Is you. And we would write it, raise it, and I would check, erase. Here's the next one. Is O. All right, erase. And I would go around and I could do this pretty quickly. And I'm just gonna show you one again that might have two sounds. So here's one. Two ways. First way spells F. Second way is double F. So we just want to capture all the different ways to spell that sound in that exercise.
So this is basically a beginning way of spelling. We're teaching kids they can hear a sound and then spell the sound. And they need to know all of the different possible ways to spell that sound because we want them to become knowledgeable spellers and know all of the spelling patterns.
And then our next exercise is, again, just warming up our brain and practice, practice, practice with a skill that we have already done. And so we will build a word and I will start building it. We have learned that that sound at the end of a word with a short vowel in front of it is spelled CK. And so I'd ask the kids to do the sounds with me. And then we would make that word change. You have that in your homework. So if I move the over and add an O, let's read it. Flick. All right. And then watch this. If I just remove the S, we have another word. Flick. And then if I change the O to a, but uh-oh, we don't have a K. So we just draw one and we go like this. And then I'm going to switch to the sound, which is two letters that make one sound. And so I'm going to pull down and they would tell me it would be QU. And we would go quick. And then we build that chain.
So this is something that you probably are used to seeing on the homework. It's the word chain piece. And what's really powerful about word chains is it gives your students practice with spelling and reading simultaneously. It gives them a lot of practice thinking about how the sounds work when you're putting together words and changing the sounds in words. It really gives their brains all the practice that they need to become more fluent and automatic with doing that, which is what they need to be able to do to become fluent readers.
And so now we're still on the phonics. We're still on how the sound, we learn how to read and spell the sounds so that we can hear them in words and start to read words. And so this is when we introduced the new concept for the week. We talked about we talk about a consonant digraph. And we use our body a lot. Consonant digraphs is when two consonants come together to make one sound. And this is all teaching from me. And I would say we've already learned that CK are together at the end of the word. They make one sound. So what we're going to learn today is that S, oops, I have to go back. Sorry, S and H have their own sounds. And but when these consonants come together in words, they make a new sound, which is sh, like at the beginning of the word beep. The consonant digraph SH can come at the beginning of a word, like the words ship and shop. The consonant digraph SH can come at the end of a word, like fish and wish. And then we really zoom in to what our mouths are doing to make this sound. So to make the sh sound, you put your teeth together and you round your lips like this. Very good. And you want to pull your tongue slightly back towards the back of your mouth and be sure your voice is off. And you know your voice is off when you don't feel any vibrations in your throat. So try it again. Stop. And it's a quiet sound. It's also a continuous sound, which means we can make that sound as long as we have air. So let's try it. Stop. And let me show you what an opposite of a continuing sound is. CK is a stopping sound. It's so let's try that sh again and notice that it can go on. Great. And so we want to practice writing SH. We do this lots of ways in the classroom. We do it on whiteboards. We do it in journals. But today we're going to do skywriting, which is big body movement. So you're going to go ahead and you're going to put your arm out. You want straight arm, big strong brain, not noodle arm like I don't really care. We want to be strong. We want to be intentional. And we're going to really pay attention to our lines. This is in the house. And you're going to make the lowercase s and then the lowercase h starting at the top and making your hump. Practice that 5 times. So lowercase s and h, lowercase s, h, and so on. We really want to isolate that sound because then we're going to use it in words. And then we just continue to model. Today, day 1 is all about modeling, and you're going to watch me. I do as I read this. Shed. Are you ready to try it with me? Try a few words because we're going to read it together. Let's use those fingers for those sounds, and we pound it when we know it. Like a hammer, we're pounding it in our brain. So ready? Up. Shut. Let's do one more. Shut. Remember the SH can be at the beginning of the word, but it also could be at the end of the word. So let's practice that. Ish, fish. And ish, dish. Great. I heard a really clear d sound from you. And let's stretch it because we can. We know all these sounds. So let's put it together. Old ash, flash. And we're going to continue to stretch ourselves to how many letters? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 letters, but 4 sounds. Ready? Ash, crash. Okay. And then we're going to practice spelling. And we would do this in our journal.
I think you're seeing a theme here. Practice, practice, practice. The more exposure, the more practice students get, the better chance they have of mastery of this. They get all this practice in one lesson, and then as they continue to progress on to future lessons, they circle back to practicing this phonics skill over and over again. They'll see it in the next lesson. They'll see it in future lessons. So they get lots of opportunities to practice it and master it. They may not master it in the first lesson. That's okay. In fact, we don't necessarily expect them to, but we want to give them lots of exposure and practice, and then they keep seeing it over and over again until they get that mastery that we want them to have.
And so in the classroom, we would practice the spelling where I first model it. And the first word is ship. What's the word?
Ship.
So in my dotted lines, and I'm really focusing on my letter formation as I'm doing this, I'm going sh. Hip. Okay. And then we're going to do some together. And so in their journals, we're going to do it together. And I really like to do the word, and let's just do one more, shin. What's the word?
Shin.
And I just go in, shin, and I have them try it out on their own. And then once I see everybody's doing it, then I remodel it. I go shin, and then I ask them to look to see if they need to make any fixes. And if they do, that's great. That's called being reflective. And so they might fix it, and then I say, and then next to it, write it in your neatest writing. And that's why they have neat handwriting. It's the best handwriting I've had since I've been here. So they write it neatly, and they show me they're ready for the next one.
So if you're practicing with your child at home, this really helps them. Like, one of the things we see a lot with young children is they get the letters out of order. So when you're doing this with them and they're saying the sounds, you're wanting them to write the sound as they're doing it with their fingers. So if they're saying shh and they've got their first finger, they're writing the letters that spell that sound first. Then they're showing you the next sound, eh. They're writing the letter that says that sound next. And then then they're writing that. That really helps them with the sequencing and getting those in the right order.
Any questions online so far?
I don't see any questions yet.
Okay. So we spelled together, and then we are in day 2. More practice with the same skill. We would get those letters out again, and we build more word chain, but now with the word chain, we would practice it with actually the targeted skill, the SH. And then this is another important component to reading. These are those heart words. And do you want to talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, so irregular words are words that have something in them that is unexpected, that your child is not able to sound out, either because they haven't learned that pattern yet, or because it's just an irregular pattern in that word. So for example, go. Okay, like, which one are we doing? So for go, for a first grade student, they know that the letter G makes that G sound. So that blue box underneath signifies this is a letter that you know the sound to. It makes an expected sound. The letter O, however, they have learned makes the sound ah. So if they were just sounding this out, they would say g, ah, ga. However, this is the word go. Later on, as they get more advanced in their learning, they will learn that when a word or a syllable ends with a vowel, the vowel makes a long vowel sound, but they haven't learned that yet. So we put a heart underneath to tell them this letter makes an unexpected sound. So when we're teaching it to them, we're saying this O is going to say its name. And this word is going to say O. So when we're practicing it, we're going to sound it out, G, O, go. So when they see it, when we're practicing, they know it's gonna make something a little unusual. We tell them you just have to know it by heart. Something you have to know by heart, you have to memorize it. So there's words that are temporarily irregular, like this, like the O and go and the O and so. They'll learn it later and it'll follow a rule. But like, for example, the word says, the AY here just remains irregular because in English, AY makes the A sound, but in the word says, it always says which is unexpected and it will always be that. So it's a permanently irregular word. So we teach them this. We are very explicit with kids and we tell them exactly what irregular and regular means so that they know how to approach these types of words and they know what it means if we tell them that's irregular and they just have to know what that sound says since it isn't what they expect.
And then we have some more.
We end every lesson with connected text, which basically means we've been really looking at words, just words. So we're reading words, we're spelling words. Then we want to put it all together. So we read sentences, we spell sentences, and then we read a text, a story that's all put together so that they can do it, put it all together. That's the ultimate goal, being able to use all these skills that you have learned to read something and understand it.
That would be the fluency.
So this is another one of our pillars of reading, which is reading fluency. So that's the ability to read accurately and quickly, but also with expression. And so to read with expression, you have to understand what you're reading so that you can read with expression. So if you're reading dialogue, you can read with the right intonation. You can read with excitement. You can ask a question so that it sounds like a question. So all of that is a part of reading fluently.
And so let's just practice how we would do a sentence. And we really just take this one step at a time with lots and lots of practice. So it would sound like this. We're going to do it together. And we're going to sound out each word. So it's going to go like this. Ready? She. Again. She. And once we've sounded out, we read it. So she goes. Again. She goes to. Again. She goes to the. Again. She goes to the shop. Again. She goes to the shop at. Again. She goes to the shop at 10. Again. She goes to the shop at 10. And then we like to ask for volunteers. And then I just kind of do this to kind of remind us to read with fluency. And they love it because did you see how we practice, build. And then they feel so much success. And so we go, she goes to the shop at 10.
This means period.
And then part of that fluency is I just kind of want to show that we do spelling as well, which is, it was before this step, but I just kind of want to show you, because you have 2 spelling sentences in your Youth Light homework. And this is how it would look in the classroom. And it's a great thing to do for homework. So I'm going to say the sentence, you're going to repeat the sentence without the words, we'll plan it. Then we're going to write it together. And here's the sentence. We went on a ship.
We went on a ship.
Let's count the words.
We went on a ship.
And then I'm going to plan it. I like to plan it so I know how it goes. So we went on a, and then ship. And so we would model we, E, capital letter, E, and then went, and went, then on, On. Nothing new here. We've learned this, but now we're practicing. A. And then here's our target. Shift. In. Dip. And then I have my period. Lots of modeling, lots of practice, lots of doing it together. A lot of real comfort in doing it together. And then we have a decodable passage, which you see at home. We don't really need to go into that.
So
And then-
each lesson's decodable passage features the phonics piece, like SH says shh is featured in the one for that lesson. Plus it includes other phonics, I can't even think of the word I'm trying to think, patterns from previous lessons. So they get additional practice in that decodable passage. The other two pillars of the skills that people need to become successful readers are vocabulary and comprehension. The vocabulary, this is really the key to knowing more about everything. It's understanding words. So this is something that we work on at all grade levels, starting in kindergarten, but it is not something specifically during our YouFly lessons per se. I mean, sometimes that will come up in a decodable, but we're spending a lot of time really thinking about the mechanics of the sounds of spelling and reading. And this comes up more often when we're talking about our unit of inquiry for IB and for other things. I'm not a classroom teacher, so.
Actually, for German, this is the
Mhm.
key to vocabulary.
I'm not
The key to understanding a German text is your vocabulary. So if I might be able to pronounce everything beautifully, but I'm not aware of what I'm actually reading. So this is the key component for German reading, besides phonics. But
So the way you at home can help build your child's vocabulary, because their oral vocabulary, what they understand from hearing it, is so crucial to their reading vocabulary as they grow older. Talk to them as much as you can, read to them as much as you can. That builds their oral vocabulary, which they need to become better readers. When they see a word that they don't know right away, but they sound it out, then they go, oh, I've heard that word before. It's all based on that oral vocabulary that you're doing with them at home. And then comprehension, this is our ultimate goal for being a reader, is being able to pick up any kind of text, read it, and understand it. That is what we're working toward constantly, all of this that we're working on. So this is a graphic that tries to show how complex being a skilled reader really is. So if you look at the top portion of it with the blue thread, it's called Scarborough's reading rope. Scarborough's reading rope, and so it's made up of little threads. So the blue threads are the language comprehension pieces. So there's background knowledge, so just all of the things that your child knows. There's vocabulary knowledge. There's language structures. So what do they know about sentences and grammar, periods, punctuation, all of that. Verbal reasoning and literacy knowledge. So all of that forms those blue threads. Then down at the bottom are the green threads. That's phonological awareness. So that's some of the things we talked about with the phonemic awareness, the sounds, putting them together, breaking words apart. There's decoding. That's another word for being able to sound out words, word recognition. And then the bottom one is sight recognition of familiar words. That's where we want to get kids. We don't want kids to have to constantly sound out words. We want them to be able to use that as a tool for words they don't know yet, but we want to build that sight recognition so eventually they see it, they know it, it's automatic. They no longer have to sound it out anymore. All of those need to weave together to become a skilled reader who can read fluently, understand what they read. That's what we're all working toward. So now we want to talk a little bit about the codes. How do we teach the codes here? The codes, so codes for reading. So we have the English sounds. That's one of the codes that we teach here at AEA. So this is a chart that shows the motions that we teach along with the sounds, because like Megan said, what's in the body is in the brain. Sorry, I'm feeling my brain is fuzzy tonight. So we have motions that go with every sound. English has 44 different sounds. And in this slideshow that will be posted up on the website later, I'm not sure exactly when, there will be a link at the end that has a video that has all 44 sounds if you're interested in learning more about that. But we want our readers to learn all of these sounds to be able to read and spell everything they encounter.
And since we're a bilingual school, we're learning the same sounds for German as well. German has 45 sounds. And on this chart, you don't see all of them, but you see the consonants and the long vowel sounds. And then we, for our system teaching German here at our school, we also added some internally to this graph. German reading is taught here at Einstein through the ABC der Tiere. That's a German reading program that really looks at sounds as the basis for learning German. And so we have it a goal in first grade to know all the hand movements and sounds for German so that they can then have the code in order to decode a German text. And it is hard for beginning readers to keep the English sounds, the German sounds, if they're Spanish speakers, the Spanish sound, any other language that is spoken at home, keeping all those three sound systems or multiple sound systems apart. The hand movements really help, because the hand movements for the sounds that are the same in English and German, we have the same hand movement, like the letter M makes the M sound, and that's being taught in English, and in German, so there's no confusion. But if they see the combination CH, then in English would go ch, or up here, ch. In German, this is the sound of the week. You probably saw the homework coming home. That sound actually makes two different sounds in German. So one is after the vowels E and E, so I and E in English, it makes the sound. And after the darker vowel sounds A, O, U, and Ow, it makes the sound. And then we have other words where the CH sound is at the beginning of the word, and that's when it makes the sound. So that's more rare. It's more with Latin and Greek words that we have the k sound. So we're concentrating on just and when the kids do the test, I'm okay if I just hear one of the sounds and for them to earn their band. Anyway. So the ABC der Tiere takes the approach of really focusing on syllables. And I think, Sean, you said it, or Megan said it, it's the rhythmic language that our kids are used to from when they're born, or even in uterus already. When they hear the sound of the languages, they hear that pattern. And that's what this ABC der Tiere is really focusing on, that it's teaching the awareness of syllables, because that helps them breaking down words, and it helps them to break down words to write too. And so you will find in a lot of our texts that are going home, a dark gray and a light gray differentiation between within the words. In the book itself, it's blue and red. And it just helps them to take a word and break it apart. And it's important to know where those natural syllable breaks are, because kids that not aware of that pattern will read, for example, a word like tomato, as a tomate. And then by applying the wrong syllable rhythm to the word, they miss out on the comprehension if they are not careful. So it's really important for them to get an automized awareness towards the reading in syllables, and the fluency with it will bring them the recognition, not just the fluency, but the correct code and the fluency together will give them the recognition of their vocabularies, words that they're learning. So here, what do you want? Back, just enlarge that one, yeah. Okay. So here we have llama, Memo, that's just the name for that little squirrel. Mimi, mo. So we're starting very simple with just little syllables. And the reason for that is,
Doing this so that we
okay,
are doing this.
no, it's already on the right
That's
spot,
on the right
yeah.
spot, okay.
So the reason for that is because Germans, especially in government departments, love humongous words. And so we found, or I found one that is actually 63 letters long. And so in order to read that, you kind of have to know the code on how to digest that. And I will try my best. So this would be read as Rindfleisch, Etikettierungs, Überwachungsaufgabenübertragungsgesetz. And if you translate that, it would be Beef Label Regulation Delegation Law. So those are not necessarily the words that first graders or even a regular person would encounter on a daily basis. But this word, Geschwindigkeitsbegrenzung, is a common German word with 26 letters, and it is a word that is used on a regular basis. And so it's super important that that rhythm of syllables is known to students, that they know what parts belong together and how to attack a word like this. And so our guess was, I don't know if they want to give it a guess in the chat or so what this could mean, but we're just giving it away. It means speed limit.
Oh, all that, exactly.
And I do want to interject really quick too. The good thing is that even though there's different codes between English and German, there is some overlap, like Franz Allison said, and the skills are the same. They still know that there's a code. There are letters that go with sounds. There are syllables in each language. So there's a lot of overlap that they are getting, and that's helping them in both languages become better readers in both languages.
Exactly. And so I am hopeful that everybody has received these syllable readers that we have passed out in first grade, because they really help us become fluent in syllable readings, just putting two sounds together. Like for example, on this example, you see L and O. So together we spell L, O, lo. And then here we're putting three sounds together. First one is Z, E, L. And so we go S, E, L, seal. Or Z, depending on what word it is. Now I wanted to give you a quick, I'm not gonna do the whole thing.
If you have
Yes.
one wish.
If I have one wish in first grade, and that would be to learn the sounds. And I want to give you go through an exercise that we do on a daily basis, and that is we are practicing all the German sounds. We do some specifically, like the sound of the week, but we're not doing all of them that way, because some of them the kids can just pick up like this. And so at the end of first grade, when I have the whole class doing these sound cards, we can go through all of them within 53 seconds. Right now, they're about a minute and 10 seconds to do the hand movement and the sound. But right now, it is still above a minute. But here we go. Let's.
I made it big already.
A little lower.
Oh, there.
There you go.
Okay, so here we go. We're starting off with.
What you see on the computers with me.
Oh, okay, perfect.
Ooh.
And so right now, I'm not using letter names yet, because I feel like that's another layer. So I think around January, when I feel like these sounds sit, then it would sound like this. Sag Und dann geht's weiter mit
Oh.
And A is a complicated letter. That letter, it gives a lot of grief to a lot of students, because it is often pronounced as eh. And that's when the mouth is too open. So when we teach these letters or these sounds, we also concentrate on how it's produced. The reason why we do A. It's because we want to keep our mouth flat. We want to almost make it box-like, so it's sounding like A. I'm pushing the back of my lips or the side of my mouth back and trying to make a square box to say A. And then I'm pressing my tongue down too. So there's a lot of layers to it. And sometimes my Spanish speakers are able to get it a little faster because they've already known so many other languages. So many other sounds that vary from A to A and E. It's just fascinating. So here we go. E,
E.
E,
E.
und ow.
Ow.
This one is, in English it says J. Auf Deutsch sagen wir J. This is another hard one. In English we say Z. Auf Deutsch sagen wir Z. And it actually is called a set. And there's a letter that is called, oops, let me find it. Oh, here it is. People think it's a book. It's actually a sharp S and it makes the same sound as the Z. So we go 2 fingers and we press our teeth together and force all the air through. So we go. And then when we see this, it's a sharp S. It can replace 2 S and we go. So those 2 are the same sounds. Now, we're mean in English. Oops. In English, we have the other way. This way.
It's so hard to get there.
Oh, yeah, there we go. Have the SH. They're learning this this week for ship and shop. And in German, when you hear sh, you do this sh, and you're anticipating 3 letters. SCH. Then we already did this one on. And these are my fun ones to teach. One student just told me, let's do the hard ones again. Let's do the hard ones again. Because this one is not an oo, it has 2 dots on it. And so it varies the vowel sound. And it's almost like you want to put yourself a little beard on top and say ooh. And then press the air out for the oo. And that means you kind of pucker that lip up a little bit. It's just like ooh. Oder. And that's the different, that's the A sound that the kids sometimes do is It's actually the sound is this sound. So we have to go open the mouth wide and say and we'll force the air out. And then the last one, so it's not O, it has 2 dots. So we go like in then. So we're going through all these sounds to eventually, hold on, one more. To eventually use these sounds and start syllable reading. And this is why I love this.
What you see on the computer is what you see.
Oh, yeah, see, I'm like old fashioned.
There we go.
Let's do that. So we're starting with and E. So E, auf dem Arm, Weiter geht's. I, auf dem Arm, I, Then we can vary. We can go, let's do another one. O, auf dem Arm, O, O. Und, let's do another one. Auf dem Arm, Nu. So that's how we go through. And when we do it fast, 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 fast. So that when we approach or when we have in our reading text words with 2 syllables, we can go nu, 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 or ma, ma, mama. And so we need to be fast with these syllables. And if you can do just 2 things for homework, it is learning the sounds and your syllable reader practice so that they can then feel confident about using and applying the sound system and really become become fluent German readers.
Thank you so much.
Thank
That
you.
was super
Yeah,
interesting.
super.
Little peek into, I
know.
teach the English reading all day long, and it is so interesting to me to see the mirror of it in
Oh,
German.
absolutely.
I want to come sit and watch you.
Well, and I want to say, like a lot of the U-Fly exercises with the spelling, and you hear the sound, write it, like all that is happening in German too. It's just with a different program. It's not the U-Fly, it's the ABC der Tiere.
So that's kind of what we want families to understand is all of this sound, we call it sound work. It's all the code, knowing the sounds for all these letters for each language and being able to use that code to read and spell. That's the foundation of all of reading and writing in our languages. So we've talked a lot about practice. And so I want to kind of give you a visual of what this looks like and how it's different from student to student. So in the whole class on the left-hand side here, you can see I do. That's what the teacher models. So that's when Megan was showing us what to do first. The kids are watching and the teacher's showing. Then it's we do. The teacher does with the students. We do again. The teacher does with the students. And then y'all do. The students do all together. They're helping each other. And then finally, it's you do. The student does it independently. So they have all that practice and they get to see other people doing it before they have to do it on their own. So that's like what it's like in a whole class lesson. So there are students, however, that's not enough. They need extra practice. That's not enough for them to feel comfortable with it. So maybe they're getting some extra support. So maybe this is what the extra support looks like. I do, I do. We do, we do, we do. Y'all do, y'all do. You do, you do. There's also kids that need intensive support. Maybe they have a reading disability. Maybe there's something else going on. They need a lot more practice. So every student is different. And our goal at school is to try and recognize which kids need more practice and give them what they need, whether it's inside the classroom, pulled out in a reading group, maybe trying to send home extra practice or helping families understand how to support with this extra practice, which is what the U-Fly home practice is really helpful for. Families at home are a big part of giving your child extra practice at home so they get those opportunities. So that kind of leads us into how can you support your child at home? That's the number one question we always get from families. So one of the things we talked about already is just reading aloud to your child. This is the single most effective practice for enhancing literacy development in children is reading aloud to them in any language, doesn't matter what language. Talk, talk, talk. Again, building that oral language, just have conversations with your children. Talk about books, talk about movies, talk about what you're seeing in the world around you. There's lots of different ways to practice at home. If you have magnetic letters, whiteboards, you can go ahead and skip this one. We kind of talked about this already. Typically, we are teaching 2 new concepts or 2 new lessons every week over the course of the week. So you'll get home practice sheets, different home practice. This is what an example of what they look like for first grade. You probably have all seen these already. So we broke them apart. I think you guys, they've already received instruction in all of this, so we're gonna skip through this. Another thing that you can do at home is after you read with your child, ask them questions. There are a list of questions here that you can ask before reading a book, such as, why did you pick this book? What do you think this book is going to be about? There's this, and again, this presentation will be available on the website after, not right away, but probably within the next week. So you can have a list of questions to use. And then after you read a book, here's some other questions that you can ask your child. Who was your favorite character and why? Did the problem of the book's plot get solved? So just to get them thinking about what they read and digging a little bit deeper. Thank you. And then just ways to advocate for your child. If you are concerned about your child's progress as a reader. So something that happens a lot in teaching is we use a lot of acronyms. We use words that we're used to using, but maybe are not familiar to families at home. Please call us on it. Please say, I don't know what that word means, or I don't know what that acronym means. We are supposed to use language that is easy to understand and accessible, but we don't always. So please ask us if we say something to you about your student or about their learning that you don't understand what it means, please just ask us. That's a big one. If you have concerns, the first thing you should always do is talk to your I can't talk anymore. I guess my tongue is tired. I've run out of juice. Talk to your teacher, your student's teacher. I'm also always available, but I really encourage you to always speak with your teacher first before coming to me because they know your child way better than I do. We also are so lucky to have a full-time credentialed school librarian at our school. She is amazing. She has built an amazing library website that is linked in this presentation. She has books, but the website itself is also a huge resource and has all kinds of information and access to online texts and audiobooks and all kinds of things. She's a great resource as well. Through that library website that can't talk. I'm really losing it through the presentation. And then we'll stop now. We are 1 minute before the end of our presentation and see if anyone has any questions for us.
So I do have one question. This person asked, how do the German and English teachers share the differences and similarities of German and English? For example, do the partner languages make explicit to students that one language is read phoneme by
Phoneme.
phoneme by
Mhm.
phoneme,
Yeah.
English, while German is syllable by syllable?
A little bit of both.
Oh, yeah.
It's
Let
like
me get to syllables.
Yes,
Both, I would say both languages are read phoneme by phoneme and
Yes.
then syllable by syllable. So that's something that both languages have in common.
yes. I think for the German, it is much more phonetic than English. So it's easier once that code is cracked and all these sounds have been memorized, somebody can correctly just by sounding out or applying the code to every letter or letter combination, they would be able to read a German text perfectly. Even if they didn't know the syllable method as well, just by knowing the code. Now, comprehension, as the example for tomate and tomate, that's the part where then comprehension would play in. But if somebody were to just read and sound it out, they would be able to get to the pronunciation.
So one of the ways that we've been trying to make the connection more explicit is we've started over the last this is our third year, I think, of making sure we're using the same hand motions, that we've been intentional about the shared sounds that are the same in English and German using the same hand motion. This is our third year, I think, of being intentional about that. So that's one way that we've tried to really be explicit about how the code is the same and then making it clear how it's different by having different hand motions for the different sounds between the two languages. This is an area that we're always trying to get better at and make more connections at. I feel like first grade's made a lot of progress in this area over the years in terms of being explicit about it. But I think too, even just talking about the code with the kids and having them understand that there's one code for each language has its own code. And I've started talking with the kids I see in my groups about that. And it's really interesting to them, I think, to know that every language has its own code. I'm trying to think of other ways that we connect across the two languages. Can you think of any other ones?
Well, references, so that when we read and somebody goes and sees the J and says J, that I would acknowledge them and say, you're absolutely right. That's a J in English, but in German, we say Yi and we say jagen or jetzt. So it's just the comparison when it's being brought up, or that I intentionally, with this letter now, the CH coming, I knew it's ch. So I'm like, okay, in English, you've learned ch. You guys had it already in your.
No, it's coming.
Oh, it's coming, anyway, so, but they knew it from kindergarten, so they go,
Yeah.
shh. And so I'm like, perfect, yes, it's right, but now we're switching to German, and now we're saying. And
And that's a really good point. It happens all the time,
Yeah.
because the kids will mix them up, but we can say, oh, you're right. That's a German sound. I think that's something I learned over the years too, is I learned most of the German sounds, I think, because I could say, oh, that's right, but we're looking
Yes.
for the English sound right now in our group, so we can prompt them back to
Yes.
that. That was a great question.
Yeah, because I was wondering that too,
Mhm.
because after seeing like some of them, they're similar, but then they'll have different sounds. Like
Yeah.
how do they differentiate the two? I guess it's just reminding them.
And a lot of
the hard
cognitive-
part of it, that
Right.
they have to, for especially A and E, which are like the
Mhm.
two big vowels in German, and that they are the complete opposite.
Yeah.
Will bring a lot of confusion. But that way we also see when we do our quick assessments and formative assessments, when they're reading what language they're concentrating on. And they can never concentrate on both languages at the same time. It's always, there's one that is being worked on, and then when there's a certain knowledge level, and they're ready, they shift to the other language, and it will go back and forth over the course of a year.
I think that raises a good point though, and I'm glad it kind of came up.
Yeah.
I think it's really important for families to understand that when children are learning two different languages, they are not going to progress as quickly as they would if they were only receiving instruction in one. So we get a lot of concern sometimes about students who are being compared to students who aren't going to Einstein, about where they are in terms of comparing them to kids who go to English only schools. And it's really tricky to do that because we have kids that are becoming bilingual, biliterate, and it's a totally different ballgame. So please understand that because of these, it is harder for them, and they do have to separate out these two different codes, but it does take a little bit longer, which slows them down a little bit. So but just be aware of that. But the end outcome is so much more powerful for them. But just be aware that they might be a little bit progressing a little bit slower on the English side than you might expect from an English only school.
To answer the question.
Yes,
Okay.
yes. That's the only one that I have so
Okay.
far.
Well, thank you everyone for being with us tonight. We really appreciate you spending your time with us. And if you have any other questions, our email addresses are in the presentation, and we'd love to hear from you.
Thank you.